Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first European Standardisation Booster webinar organised by the HSbooster.eu project. I'll just give a brief introduction while people join us and just to introduce today's webinar to everyone. So my name is Nick Ferguson. I work for an SME called COMMpla, which is based in Pisa in Italy. And I'm a senior project manager there, and I'm also the coordinator of the HSbooster project. We're very, very pleased to welcome you all to the webinar. We have just under 150 participants who have registered today, with a strong representation from academia and research, and also from the standardization community, which reflects the role that the booster will play over the next 2 years in providing an engagement channel for these two communities. I'm also very pleased to note that we've got almost parity from a gender perspective, which is extremely encouraging. And I'd like to thank the European Commission for promoting this webinar and also the various open calls, which you'll be hearing about in today's webinar over the last week or so. So the objective of today's webinar is to introduce you to the standardization booster, which will look to facilitate the way and support the way that EU projects contribute to the creation or revision of standards, and as a consequence, add greater value to their own results. I'm very pleased to be joined by an excellent selection of speakers who will cover key points related to both the background of the booster and also on the actual what will be carried out through the booster service. So we'll be joined first by Ioannis Sagias, who's Deputy Head of Unit of Valorisation Policies and IPR at the European Commission. And then we'll be joined from various partners of our project consortium. And we'll be looking at the what and why EEC projects should be applying for our services. We'll also be looking at the benefit of functional and practical training for the research community in the standardization field, how standardization could give greater market value to project results and potential uptake of results, and why standardization experts in Europe and across the world should be listening and contributing and engaging with projects and playing a key role in facilitating this engagement between these two communities. There'll be a bit of time after each of the presentations for maybe 1 or 2 questions, but we'll really be fielding the questions towards the end of the workshop, where we'll have a round table and we'll be able to look at the questions that have come in during the hour and a half. Just some housekeeping rules, so please do ask questions. You can use the Q&A button at the side. We'll be recording today's session as well, so it'll be available on the HSbooster website. And also all the presentations will be up straight after the webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to pass over to Ioannis, who will be opening the webinar and giving some background to why the booster has come about and its role in relation to the standardization strategy from the European Commission. So Ioannis, I hand over to you.
Thanks, Nicholas. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining, and I will try to share my screen and give you the information about how the whole thing started. I have to find the presentation first. Okay. Is it visible now to all?
Yes.
Okay. I guess it needs to go on a full screen. Okay. Okay, great. So I just wanted to give the policy context and actually how we ended up setting up this nice service to everybody for standardization activities for Horizon beneficiaries. And it all started with this policy review. The unit that I'm working with, which is called Valorisation Policies and Intellectual Property Rights Management, is the unit that was created only 3 years ago. And the idea of creating that unit was to be able to demonstrate that we are doing a huge investment in R&I, but not all of this investment is translated into let's say, market uptake or policy uptake, or let's say we are not doing the best we can for using the results of this excellent research and innovation. And the idea was to understand what can we do in order to valorize more knowledge, how to do, how to see the tools and the channels for valorization and demonstrate what can be done in each and every channel. And we did this policy review back in 2019 and we published it in 2020. And this includes basically this nice schema, which shows which are the main actors for valorizing knowledge, for creating more value from the investment in R&I, which are the channels that we are using for this valorization, and some of the tools. It's not an exhaustive list. And as you see, there is this channel which is called intellectual property management and standardization. And it's one that really, it's one of the most important channels to create more value and boost market uptake. So the idea was to be able to implement the activities about knowledge valorization. And of course, if you know how Commission works, you really need to be included in policy documents, important policy documents, to allow you pursue the goals and the objectives that you set down. So back in 2020, we started with the new era. So we are part of the new era. Knowledge valorization is an important element in the new European research area. We try to include everything for knowledge valorization also into the pact for the new era, and of course the competitiveness council that member states come and verify that knowledge transfer, knowledge valorization is something very important for the union, and value creation something that should be pursued at European but also at national level, and we should do also actions with the member states. On that respect, we issued a dialogue with the member states, we issued dialogue with stakeholders, with the greater public. We have annually a big event which is called Knowledge Valorization Week, where we exemplify what can happen and how peer learning can actually help in knowledge valorization by demonstrating best practices that are coming from all member states and different stakeholders. And we end up in this Action 7 under ERA, which says that we need to translate the results into the economy and to ensure market uptake. And how do we do that? By giving guiding principles to stakeholders and member states for knowledge valorization. And these guiding principles will be implemented by a set of codes of practice. Let's say that the codes of practice are like a book of codes, and each chapter of that book will address one of the important elements. Basically, it will address one of its valorization channel, started with the smart use of intellectual property and standardization. And I will say a couple of words later on about the standardization code of practice. And the idea, of course, is to be able to support European technologies, have better market uptake, and improve the valorization also through standardization. So this is where, for the first time, the standardization actually was introduced in the European research area policy documents. But then came the European Industrial Strategy and the standardization strategy, which make it very explicit. So starting from the European Green Deal, which includes a European Industrial Strategy, and finally the standardization strategy that came up in February this year, shows that inside the Union, there is a new wave of focusing now on standards and standardization as a way to boost further the standards development, market uptake, and make better services, products, and solutions for the European citizens. And as you see in the standardization strategy, and these are the key actions, there are two actions explicitly mentioned for research and innovation. One is the code of practice for standardization for researchers, and the other is the standardization booster. So we had in our minds this idea of helping the beneficiaries of Horizon to do something with their standardization activities. As you know, standardization was always something to report on. For example, when you have a Horizon project, there was a specific table that you declared your standardization activities. But I have to say that there was not much of a follow-up. There were not much service delivery to help projects take their standardization activities to the next level. We realized that this is something that we have to act, and we thought about the standardization booster, and we managed to include the standardization booster not only as a service delivery tool, but as something that can demonstrate this change that Commission wants to introduce when it comes to the new standardization era. So the standardization strategy includes namely the standardization booster, and of course the HSbooster.eu is the standardization booster that you see in this important document. So, and this I quote directly from the standardization strategy. We need a platform to help Horizon 2020 Horizon Europe beneficiaries which have results which are likely to create or revise a standard, and to test their results for standardization. We need to engage further with the R&I community in the standards development as early as possible, raise strategic awareness on standardization, build expertise and skills in standardization, promote EU interests and values through standards, and address standardization urgencies in the twin transition, green and digital technologies. So the standardization booster, which is the HSbooster.eu, will support the creation of value in R&I investment and create a flow from projects to standardization activities. This is coming directly from the EU standardization strategy, and we're very happy because it gives maybe the highest possible legitimacy for having such an action and implementing it throughout the whole Horizon beneficiaries. And of course, what are the priorities that we need to address according to the annual work program of the Union for Standardization? Of course, we're recently maybe out. We will have to see whether we're completely out of this COVID-19 pandemic. But certainly there are still standardization urgencies which are around the vaccines and medicines production, the raw materials for batteries and waste of batteries, climate resilience of infrastructure, low carbon cement. So these are the ERA roadmaps. Hydrogen, of course, transport and storage of hydrogen, standards for the certification of chips, security, authenticity, reliability, and data spaces. So these are priorities that the HSbooster.eu will have to address, and we expect basically a request for service delivery coming from these particular domains. And how we expect that the booster will valorize R&I by standards, that we need to have this ecosystem culture by connecting R&I and the standardization community. I think that this connection was not that strong in the past, and we need to reinforce it. We need to bring on board local and regional authorities. We need to understand what is happening in the member states also, and we need to understand what kind of standardization activities are relevant for the booster. We need to increase this knowledge circulation also by bringing together the relevant communities and stakeholders, match the agenda of standardization bodies and the R&I projects. So, for example, we scan through the work program of Horizon to see which topics are relevant for standardization, and we would like to bring these relevant topics to the surface and make the standardization bodies knowing that these projects are coming up. So this is something that we constantly do. And also we would like to exploit further the reporting of standardization from the projects. And this is something that we like also to bring in front, both of the HSbooster.eu, but also to the rest of the standardization community. And of course, we need to identify more gaps. We need to analyze these gaps and see where exactly we need to set up technical committees to address these gaps. And of course, take the steps as realistically as possible, like one step at a time, and try to build, as I said, reinforce this connection between the relevant stakeholders and increase the valorization through standards. So just a summary, that's my last email. The HSbooster.eu, it's a coordination and support action, will run for 2 years, it has 2 million budget, and it has, we believe, the best consortium with expertise and experience for delivering these services and helping you all making the next step in your standardization activities and we have an advisory group that will help also steer the project accordingly. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope I didn't take much of your time.
Thank you very much, Ioannis. That's fantastic. Really interesting overview to the background and the importance that the booster has and its relevance to the strategy. Francesco's telling me that there were a couple of questions in the chat. Francesco, do you want to just let us know which the questions?
Is the yes. Stop sharing so I can see also the questions?
Okay.
So we'll stop sharing now. Okay, good. So yeah. So
there's a couple of comments, basically looking at the importance of, or people are happy to see the importance of standardization and interoperability becoming a more of a cross-cutting topic. And I think, you know, the engagement that we've had with people since our project started, as you said at the beginning of April, has been really pretty encouraging. You know, initial contact from projects has been, you know, how and can we apply, and also the engagement we've had from the standards organizations such as Sensenelec, and I can see David from ETSI here, who we have a meeting with this afternoon, has been extremely supportive and productive. So so yeah, that's fantastic. Francesco, you said there was a couple of questions.
Yes, I think I see them now. Yeah, the booster is encouraging the best practices with some key. I mean, basically these are the urgencies that were mentioned in the union's program, and the idea is to use the booster also to help any project that can address this kind of urgencies. So we're talking about climate or vaccines, or we're talking about the recovery and resilience. These are actually, it should go more than just, you know, like examples. It should be actual projects that are in the position to deliver something that can create or revise a standard. And this is how we would like the booster to act on them. And about the data space, well, this is something I wanted to say. It's I mean, when it comes to the digital and to the data spaces, and when we're talking now, let's say about the circularity issue and the circular economy, there is a strong element of standardization in the ICT and in the data, and it's much easier and much faster, I would say, in these domains, comparing, let's say, to the social sciences and humanities, or comparing to other parts, even in life sciences. In this respect, what we would like is to see, and our colleagues from Connect would like to see more standards on interoperability, standards on data interoperability. I remember something that we started years ago with European Interoperability Framework in DIGIT, and that luckily had expanded into creating more and more standards for interoperable data spaces first, and also be as interoperable as possible with the rest of the technologies and the rest of the elements when it comes to circular economy, and when it comes to the circularity, all this industrial symbiosis. Data being always important for this kind of thing. So this is basically the urgency on the data spaces. I think that the next question, I will leave that to you, Nicholas.
That's right.
One more thing from my side is that indeed it's a strong element, the ICT standardization and the data standardization. But what we would like is to encourage everyone, every project from every domain, to come up with ideas on standardization or revising standards, which can be from different domains. And for us, it would be nice to see not only the urgencies, but to have the full spectrum of Horizon Europe, let's say, programs and work programs participating in generating possibilities for new standards or revising existing standards. So this is something important. I mean, I know that there will be a steady flow from the digital, let's say, part, but we would like to see equal flows coming from other parts of the program.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much, Ioannis. Thank you for the answers. And I see that Ray and Signe and Francesco all and Ivana are all answering questions as well. So we'll try to answer the questions in the chat, either in the Q&A or also directly, so you can see the answers. But as Ioannis said, you know, our engagement with the stands organizations are also very important. This is one of our key stakeholders. So, you know, we're setting up meetings with these people now, and trying to get as much buy-in from this community as possible, because they are extremely important. So I'm just sharing my screen again.
One last thing, Nicholas.
Yes.
I forgot to mention the code of practice for researchers, and I promise I'll say something about it, and I forgot about it.
That's fine.
It's what we want to do is provide something hands-on for the practitioners, something for researchers basically, or people around the research community that will help with the standardization activities. And this code of practice is currently, I mean, there's a survey which has been launched, and we're gonna place it in the news in the funding attendance portal. I hope that it will be done today or tomorrow, so everybody can have access and comment on that. I mean, provide answers to this survey and help us shape this code of practice, help us shape these recommendations that will go to the research community to increase the standardization activity. So I think it's very important that you just spend a bit of time, have a look at the survey, try to give some answers. If you think that you really want to submit also a position paper, please do so. So we believe that already the code is being drafted, but we would like to finalize it with consultation with you. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ioannis. Thank you. So, so just to repeat, what I'll do is I'll give it an overview, a high-level overview of the activities and the objectives of the HSbooster project and European Standardisation Booster, and then I'll be handing over to my colleagues, Signe, Ivana, Ray, and Lucio, who will go into a bit more detail on some of the various aspects that we look at. Now, Ioannis already presented this slide, but I wanted to highlight one of the points in this slide, which is the budget which we have available. Now, we have a budget of €2 million, and 1/5 of this will be going to funding standardization experts to engage with EU projects. So that's quite an important thing that we state at the beginning. The consultancy services, which you'll hear about in a moment, will be delivered by experts in the standardization community. And that's why engagement with organizations like ETSI and CENSELEC and international standard bodies are very important from us. Our consortium is quite lean and small, but we have strong expertise both in the standardization arena, in training on standardization, in understanding the market and the market value of standards, and also in delivering booster services for the European Commission. Ray will be talking a little bit later on about the expert advisory, the external advisory group we have, which is made up of high-level standardization experts with key roles in standardization bodies or organizations and across Europe. And they'll be guiding us on the priorities and the objectives of the project to make sure that we deliver meaningful input to the project community, and also the right type of we address the right type of urgencies that are required by Europe at the moment. Ioannis also mentioned the standardization strategy, and of course this is what the HS Booster is there to address, this particular point in the strategy in terms of creating a sustainable online platform which brings together experts from standardization and the EU project community. And we'll be talking a little bit later about the open calls, which we'll be launching from June onwards. So Ioannis also mentioned the scoping study, which is currently out by the Commission. But prior to that, there was a very interesting study done by the Commission on scoping study for the code of practice. Now, this gave excellent insight, which is really influencing the way that we deliver the project in terms of understanding how successful, the challenges, the success stories that projects have had in the past in contributing to standardization activities. And the report threw up quite a few gaps and challenges which projects face when trying to contribute to standards. And some of these, are things which are going to be addressed by our project, and areas in which we think we can make a bit of difference with the community of experts. So, for example, providing sounding boards to projects to help them understand in terms of relevance and practicalities on how the results are relevant to a technical committee or a working group. Understanding how they can synchronize their work. Projects come with a limited lifetime, and how can they meaningfully contribute to activities which are ongoing in a group? And then to ensure that the research community have the right skill set and expertise and functional expertise to actually contribute effectively. So our project is built on four main objectives, or rather the booster is built on four main objectives. Firstly, to create a community of standardization experts to deliver the consultancy services and to share their knowledge and expertise here. Secondly, to design and deliver these services in a timely manner so that they have meaningful impact to the various projects and the various topics which we address. We then, thirdly, to really make a difference and to ensure that there's a flow of information from the activities we carry out to standards organizations and to the Commission itself. And finally, possibly the most important one is to increase the uptake of new technologies which are resulting from standardization activities. So we look to deliver the HSbooster program, which is kind of the beating heart of our project. And we hope that this can contribute to the standardization landscape and the understanding of how valuable and important the valorization of results from research projects are for the standards community. So as you can see, we deliver a series of services, which you can see highlighted in blue. Now, these focus on services which are delivered to the project community. So, different projects have different levels of understanding and standardization. So we try to cover as many levels as possible, from baseline information, providing entry point information on standardization. So, maybe questions around what is standardization, what is standard, who are the main standardization organizations, and also helping projects to understand how ready their results are for the standardization process. We're also, with the proactive services, going to reach out to projects, contact those projects which are working in standardizations areas and help them to matchmake, really, identify which are the technical committees or working groups which are most relevant to them. And then finally, the consultancy services, which we've mentioned a few times now, where we engage perhaps with projects which are a bit more able to contribute either to the creation of new standards or revision of existing standards. And this is where the experts come in and deliver their input directly to them. And you can see the expert call in orange, and this is the first call which we've actually opened last week, which we'll talk about in a moment, where we're trying to recruit standardization experts from a series of fields, which we'll be covering also in a moment. So from a project point of view, projects will be able to apply for these services from the 21st of June. We'll have 5 periodic open calls running until 2024. And these will be covering different topics, which Signe will go into more detail on in a moment. There are 5 high-level topics that you can see on the left of the slide. And these are really areas where we've tried to match the standardization urgencies highlighted in the strategy. So the calls will run for 4-month periods, and services will be granted on a first-come, first-served basis. And of course, eligibility checks will be carried out. But this is open for all EU projects funded under Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, which are either ongoing or completed, as with other booster services such as the Horizon Results Booster. As I said, the open call for standardization experts opened last week. Ray will be giving some more information about the type of engagement which we'd like to see the experts giving to the projects. But here we're looking to recruit, experts who have experience either with a national standards body or with European Standardisation Organisation or international organisations too, who may be members of technical committees or working groups. We've already had some excellent and really positive input from Senelec and an interest from other standardisation bodies. And we think that the type of engagement that the expert can play can have a positive impact on their own objectives in terms of engaging with the research community. So with that, I'll just check if there are any questions in the Q&A from me. Are there any questions, Francesco? Oh, here we go. Okay, I don't think question, more comment in terms of the combination of the new code of practice. And it's important to highlight, I think, that the booster comes at a time of a lot of activity and a lot of change in the standardization area. So we're very excited about the impact that we can have here. If you have any further questions, add them in the chat. And also there's a FAQ on the website regarding both the open call for experts and the open calls for projects. So you can get plenty of information from there. So with that, I will stop sharing and hand over to my colleague Signe.
Thank you very much, Nick. I'll just share my screen. Just give me 1 second. So, hopefully you should all be able to see my screen now. So, first of all, just let me introduce myself. My name is Signe Annette Bøgh, and I am a senior project manager for Danish Standards. I'm also a partner in HSbooster. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what's in store for Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe projects in this HSbooster service that we are going to be delivering. As mentioned by Nick, then we are going to have a row of open calls for projects, European projects in the Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020. These can both be running projects and it can also be closed projects. So if your project is already closed or finished, then you'll still be able to apply for this service. We think this is a really good opportunity for these research and innovation projects, also as mentioned by Ioannis, to valorize your results. Also, we are focusing a lot on the urgencies by the European Commission, so that we're sure that we address these. And then, of course, also one thing that I know is key for most R&I projects is, of course, impact. And standardization is a really good method to actually increase the impact of your projects. We are going to have a bunch of experts that can help you. So once we have these open calls, what we're going to do is we're going to have some experts that can guide you in the right direction in regard to standardization. That means, for example, you're going to have the opportunity to meet some standardization experts. You can discover what's my potential in this project, how ready are we actually to start standardization process. You can also plan, for example, contributions to standardization, learn some new skills. And then also, one that I would like to stress here is also that one thing we can also help you with is, of course, learn about what is the standardization landscape in your area. I saw in the chat, there was a comment about how are we going to address the fact that there are so many really good standards out there already that can be used. And I would like to stress here that our goal is not only for research and innovation projects to contribute to standardization, it is of course also that they can use some of the knowledge that's already in existing standards. And one thing that we can help with is to find out, okay, what is in the standardization landscape of my particular area? Because we know there are a lot of standardization out there, there are a lot of organization. It can be very difficult to find out what's up and down in this. So that means that we are going to help with that. And you might be thinking now, okay, is this for all research and innovation projects or what is the scope for this? First of all, I'd like to say that, as already mentioned also, if your project in some way working with interoperability, that could be both with, for example, electronic equipment or machinery, but in a high degree also data, then this is very relevant for you. If you're working with new technologies, for example, this is relevant for you. An example could be trustworthy AI, because standardization helps bring trust into new technologies. Could also be, for example, reliability. There's a lot of focus in, for example, test methods or in, for example, medical equipment, where you have to have a high degree of reliability. And this is something that standardization can help you with in your project. Of course, there's also something about circularity and clean energy. This is a very big focus area from the Commission that we would like to support in order to make sure that we leverage the green economy of Europe. Then finally, of course, also supply chains. If your project is working with supply chains, this is highly relevant for you. We've had, I dare to say, a couple of crises in the last few years. So we need to make sure that Europe is very resilient and that we can handle things like that also in the future. So if you're working with things like that, this is also relevant for you. So as mentioned, standardization can be relevant for many different types of projects, but we have still tried to define a couple of key areas, which I will present now. The topics. Of course, all open calls have topics, and so do we in our calls here. I would like to stress that these calls could be seen as a direction. We are going to have these 5 open calls as mentioned. These 5 open calls will focus on all the 5 topics that I'll present in a second. So each time there is a new call, all of the 5 different topics will be in some way represented. So the first topic we have is health. So there's going to be open calls on health. You might see on my slide here that something is marked in orange. The orange part is the thing we are going to begin with in our first call in June. So that means in health, the first call is going to be focusing mainly on pandemics. But if you have a research and innovation project in one of the other areas stated, then feel free to apply anyway, because we are not exclusively going to only take in projects on pandemics. This is something we do to make sure that we cover all the areas in an equal priority, and that means we're going to start with one of these. So first one, health pandemics. In this first call in June, we are also going to be focusing on resilience. Here, the first part is going to be on robust supply chains, but we also plan on having climate resilience, hybrid civil defense, and data protection and cybersecurity. And then in June, we are going to have also sustainable digitalization, with the first one being data quality and artificial intelligence. We will also be having calls on access to and usage of data, on space, on data and cybersecurity, and also on quantum technology. Fourth topic we have is green transition. We're going to be focusing on clean energy in June, but we will also be having calls on materials, raw and secondary, green and sustainable production, and also environmental impact. And then finally, the fifth topic we have, smart cities and circular economy. The first one is going to be focusing on circular economy in the building sector. Then after that, we're going to have calls also on transportation, on infrastructure, and also on green buildings. I'd just like to stress that the reason why we have chosen these 5 topics is we have looked into, in cooperation with the European Commission, what are the urgencies, what do we really need to get done in the next couple of years in Europe. We have also looked into where are the calls in Horizon Europe and in Horizon 20, what topics are there. We have looked into which areas of standardization are very active right now, where do we see a great prospect for the future. And then finally, we have also looked into policy. For example, if the European Commission has developed what we call a standardization request, then these are also going to be priority areas. So as mentioned, in June, you can expect a call on all the orange areas. But if your topic is not completely fitting in this, feel free to apply anyway, and then we will take a look. So what's the process? If you are in a research and innovation project and you would like to apply, then of course the first thing you need to do is find the open call and apply to it. This should not take very long. It's a very simple process to apply. Secondly, we're going to do a eligibility check. This simply means that we are going to look into, for example, are there any conflict of interest? or is what you are, the open call, it actually fits with your project. We're going to do what we call first come, first serve. So that means it's not like, for example, if you apply to a Horizon Europe project where you're going to get different grades. If we find that your project is legible, then you can apply for the service. Next step is we're going to match the project with an expert. This expert will be in the field that the research and innovation project is working with to make sure that they have the right knowledge to support the project. The expert will provide a consultancy service. This will be tailored to the needs of the project, so it can be different from every time. For example, the expert can help with develop an overview of the standardization landscape. We are also going to have some targeted training material. Ivana is going to talk a bit more on the training material a bit later on. So there will be a lot of training that you can find on our website. You can also have support, and for example, get access to the right standardization development areas. As said before, we know it can be a bit of a jungle out there to find out what's up and down and where do I need to go, but we can help you with that. And then finally, of course, we can also help with standardization strategy of your project. I know many projects have written in their proposal that they would like to contribute to standardization, but perhaps you're not quite sure how you're going to do that. So if you have won a project and you're not quite sure, then please contact us also, because we can also help with developing the strategy. Very important, of course, for these European research and innovation projects, this service is free of charge. So that means that you will not need to allocate more budget in your project in order to get the service. It will not cost you anything other than, of course, a bit of time. As mentioned already, but I think this could be repeated, we have these 5 open calls. The first one is on June 21st, and then we're going to have 4 more calls in October, February, June, and October again. So take a look at our webpage and see whenever there's a call opening. So I know this all sounds very nice, hopefully. If you already know, oh, this is very interesting for my research and innovation project, then please go to our webpage and you can already now state your interest, meaning that you can take a look at the website and find out, okay, we'll be contacted by you once that we are ready with the first calls. And then, of course, which I think is one of the most important parts of my presentation here, do you want to hear the news first? Then, of course, it's a good idea to register for a newsletter. Then you don't have to go in and check our website all the time, because then we will, of course, feed the knowledge to you about when we're going to open which calls. And I think that is it from my part regarding the open calls we're going to be developing. I'm just going to check the Q&A, just one second. We have here just a note that there are horizontal and vertical standards. Yes. So I think these are more comments than questions. So I think in order to make sure that we, of course, keep the time, I'm just going to stop my sharing here. Any questions here in the end, or we can take it in the panel, of course?
I think we can take them in the panel. We had a few questions about, in particular, how are we going to engage with standardization organizations, in particular, engaging with them, and a couple of questions also in relation to the importance of interoperability. So what we can do, I think, for all the speakers, you can see the questions that are coming in. I think in the roundtable, we'll see if we can pick some of these up, some of the topics, because I know Ray and myself have answered some already, but some of these I think are relevant for everyone. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Signe, for a very comprehensive overview.
Thank you.
And I'd like to hand over to Ivana. So one of the questions which came in from Nicholas Milionis, apologies for my terrible translation, was on education and standardization. So education and training, more to the point, is one of the main objectives of our project. And integrating training increasing expertise on standardization as part of the various services which we will be delivering. So Ivana, I hand over to you. Ivana is a professor at the University of Belgrade and a specialist in training on standardization.
Thank you. I would like to share my screen. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm Ivana Mijatovic. I'm coming from University of Belgrade, and my task today is to present to you more information about HSbooster Training Academy. And today I will be focused on how to build expertise. Okay. So basically today my task is to present to you some information about Training Academy, and the main point of my presentation is to explain you something more how we are going to build expertise in standardization with our participants. So basically, Training Academy, the main task is that we provide efficient mechanism for training, knowledge, expertise, and skills. And Training Academy is heavily, let's say, based on new European Standardization Strategy or strategy of standardization, which underline need for strong standardization skills across industry and academia. So basically, Training Academy has some specific task in this project to develop training packages, 2 for beginners, 2 for intermediate users, and 2 for advanced users, as well as to develop, to establish, develop, and promote network of standardization experts and standardization professionals who are interested in education about standardization. We would like to motivate standardization experts and standardization professionals to contribute to our Training Academy, and Training Academy is support to our services, as Signe already said, and we are going to provide training to proactive and premium service applicants, and there will be a lot of training webinars in our project. On the other side, we started with methodology of our Training Academy by taking into account a specific need of our participants, and we are focused on researchers' needs in this area and researchers' points of view. So with carefully research of target group characteristics, we find out that researchers' point of view, researchers included in Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020 projects, are focused mainly on finding or trying to find answers. Why do they need standardization? What benefit can they have? And how can they succeed in both research and standardization? There are many initiatives related to open science and free circulation of knowledge, and standardization find its place in that kind of initiatives. So mainly our challenge and our goal here is to bring present and changing standardization practices closer to researchers. In other words, we would like to let's say, make researchers functional in area of standardization. But how we are going to achieve our goals? Basically, to prepare researchers to make impact in standardization, they need expertise. When we discuss about a lot while preparing this project, we were very interested in developing not competencies. We develop competencies through formal education, but be aware that this is training academy. We would like to develop expertise. So we are not going to have, after our project, to have experts, a high level of experts, but we will raise expertise to our participants, and expertise is dynamic state, domain specific, and key components of expertise are knowledge, experience, and skills related to problem solving. So the main idea is to bring real life in standardization very early. Joint effort of academia and researchers. So in our consortium, there are 2 universities with very long experience in research and education in area of standardization. We need standardization expert and standardization professionals to join the efforts in training academia, to provide knowledge, experience in this area. A critical success factor of our training academy is joint effort. But how we going to work and what can you expect in a training academy? Basically, we prepared training packages, 6 training packages in 3 different levels. 2 training course on beginner level, 2 training course on intermediate level, and 2 training course on advanced level. So they carefully designed with having in mind what learning outcomes we want. We based our learning outcomes on study of Knut Blind and Sandra Dreschler related to European market need for education in standardization and standardization related competence, as well as the other studies like APEC studies related to education about standardization and standards or international workshop agreements, related documents, international working agreements related to education of standardization professionals and company professionals. Based on these studies, we had our learning outcomes. So what we want to active participant achieve after having experience with our training academies. And our goal is to, after our trainings, to have researchers who are able to influence processes and outcomes of standardization. To do that, we need to acquire some knowledge and to develop some skills and to bring some kind of experience to our researchers as much as that possible. So you can see that at advanced level, we will share experience of researchers involved in standardization and standardization experts involved in critical standardization areas, which are mentioned before. So we would like to have specific content specifically developed for researchers, with a discussion of the state of art in specific areas of standardization and to finding answer on specific question, which is how to make impact. With such ambitious goals, we would like to achieve this, and of course, these courses we have some technical support, of course, but I would like to invite you, if you are interested in education or trainings, related to standardization, to be part of our effort and to just try just to reach us, contact us, and hopefully we will have a fruitful cooperation in this context. Thank you all, and if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ivana. And you know, the training element and the training on expertise really is the key thing here. Making sure that we have, you know, research community who are functional and able to navigate the standardization field. And we've got some very nice comments from Nicholas and Nicola, complimenting on the training work. Great work on training. Great initiative for the training area. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for those comments.
We will see.
We will see.
We are enthusiastic and very ambitious, but results will talk about us.
Okay, so that's a very nice connection to Lucio Gonzàlez from SGS results. So how important are results, and how important is standardization in the role of market uptake or valorization of results? So Lucio, I hand over to you.
Can you see my screen as well?
Yeah, you can see your screen.
Okay, so first of all, my apologies for the previous technical issues, and let's go and good morning to everybody, of course. And if you agree, let's go for the importance of standards and the relationship with market. Just as a very quick example that most of us will remind. What happened with CDMA and GSM standards in the world. CDMA was the American standard, GSM was the European standard, and the importance of having GSM today and such, let's say, discussions in the past provided 3G, 4G, and the upcoming 5G. So with a lot of technologies, products, services that will be fostered and leveraged in very short time, probably by the end of this year or next year already. So this is the importance of standards, how much you can widen and you can open markets, and how you can tackle obstacles and barriers. So in our view, standards will support always industry to obtain more and more competitiveness, to access to more knowledge and innovations, of course also to research outcomes, valuable research outcomes, help to improve products and services, to ensure interoperability, and in the end to enable trading, commerce, and the end business. So it also supports business to demonstrate to regulators and customers in the end of the market that their own products or services are meeting specific requirements to provide security, safety, quality, environmental, and lately the previous security standards I mentioned. And in this sense, we should add here certification to prove, to demonstrate through a third independent party that you are meeting such requirements and you are delivering not only an edging technology, cutting edge technology, disruptive product, a breaking one, whatever you want to provide, but also you have the capacity to integrate your product in the full ecosystem already existing in the market. So standards are therefore an essential use. Okay? And if we are not using this tool from the very beginning, in our view, that means that if we are not applying an effective approach to standards from the research, development, and innovation stages. So this is an expert for you will have to perform later once you want to access or to uptake the market. So it's very, very important to implement standards, relationship standards, approach at the R&D stage. There are many types of standards. I have provided here some text, but in the end, you have product standards to specify feature characteristics, functionalities related to quality, interoperability, safety, security, a lot of things. Process standards that will refer to the conditions on those products and services are to be produced, packaged, redefined and delivered. We have also management system standards to assist, to support organizations to manage their operations. And increasingly, lately, we have service standards, because, and probably it's related with the entrance of the cloud. More and more digital services, e-commerce and so on, are on the, even in our private lives, used on a daily basis. So we can say that standards can also be broadly divided into formal and informal standards. When I mentioned before certification, we have to understand that the value of the standard and its relationship is with the certification. For instance, the European Commission provided a security policy industry in 2012, identifying that in such industry it was very important to set up framework certification schemes and standards, related standards, to overcome market barriers. And that's true. That's true. In the end, we have to obtain trust from the market and from customers. And the way to gain this trust is meeting standards and demonstrating that we are meeting them. So formal standards are developed at the international level, either even the European or national, with official standardization bodies, ISOs, CERN, and of course national standard bodies. And these international standards have become critical for the business, for the trading process. Okay? And we also have informal standards developed by industry associations, groups of interest or individual businesses with a strong, let's say, engagement and a lot of efforts put in here. But there are different, let's say, commitments with these two ways of understanding standard. The vast majority of standards are voluntary. So it's a matter of, I talked about trust before. If it's voluntary for an industry to demonstrate they are meeting such quality levels and security and environmental as well. But more and more, there are, let's say, public schemes transforming or going beyond the voluntary state, and they are enforcing by law to meet these standards, especially in terms of cybersecurity, for instance, because we are operating in the net, and the nets have to be protected. So some countries are going one step beyond supporting the standard adoption with laws, and this is quite interesting. So this is an additional, let's say, incentive to include this standardization approach from the research and development and innovation stages as well. And last but not least, the benefits of standards. I didn't mention this before, but standards support innovation and also growth and competitiveness all across Europe. The example at the beginning with GSM, I had the opportunity to be these times, and it was some kind of triumph, a big success to have a European standard present worldwide in telecommunications. And indeed, it enabled a lot of business, new technologies, a lot of startups, new products, and so on. I used to work by this time, for instance, for Ferguson, and I assisted to the birth of Bluetooth. And of course, Bluetooth now is I'm related with Bluetooth with some security issues, but it was amazing to be present at this time. How this standard was opening so much opportunities. So standards can support innovation and promote the adoption of new technologies as they also play a useful role in disseminating knowledge. Each time we are delivering a standard, we are enabling knowledge. We're providing the opportunity to use it and to create new things, to make more innovations and more business. So standards facilitate also the introduction of innovative products, as I was saying, through interoperability. It's very important to take interoperability from the very beginning, and this goes through technical specification and standard. If I create a new app for a specific sector for health, I need to understand how my application will interact with different actors in an IT architecture. So I need standards from the very beginning. And they have also an important role to play supporting our industry competitiveness in the global market. It's also a differentiation value of these standards when we have to compete either with the West or the East industries. So it helps also to improve our products and services, and it enables also even the access to these foreign markets. Even it looks like sometimes in Europe we are a bit, let's say, tight with our standards and requirements, but they are also very, very demanding, either in the West or the East. So it's a competition, and we have strong knowledge, and we need to keep on moving through to support this standard. So for me, I think it was the last slide, but if you have any question,
okay. Thank you very much, Lucio, for that overview. Ray's professor at Dublin City University, and many of you will know him from the standards and research community. Now, Ray's going to talk about the role that the experts have. Okay, so the importance of this engagement and the benefit to standards organizations too. There's been a couple of questions in the chat regarding the engagement in standardization bodies, which we can address later as well. But I hand over to you, Ray, to give this standardization community element of the project.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I can kick off here. Just give a quick introduction to the expert advisory group that we have as part of the project as well. Really, a lot of the benefits that comes from projects like HSbooster is based on the collaboration. Oops, sorry, gone the wrong way. Is based on the collaboration that's available and the expertise that's available within the project, and that's this is highlighted by the caliber of expertise that we're able to attract to these support mechanisms. As you can see here, and some of these experts are actually available on the call today, like in attendance. Sebastian, who's heading up the HSC1 on Committee on Artificial Intelligence, HSC21 Committee on Artificial Intelligence for Sensenelec, Lindsay from METSI, Knut from TU Berlin, and also from Fraunhofer Research Institute, and Gridfund from Danish Siri Commission, Emily from BSI in the UK, Valerie from NPL, again from Denmark, and Pernille, the Danish Society of Engineers, Maiten from Small Business Standards, which is always great to have involvement from either Digital SME Alliance or SBS in these type of communities. Amelia has been a long-standing contributor across multiple projects in standardization, and again joins us on our expert advisory group here for HSbooster, and her expertise in relation to particularly technology standardization is brilliant to have on board. Martin Chapman, again, long-term contribution to these type of support mechanisms too. Independent standards expert was put on his bio when he joined originally, but he's since joined Digital Europe as their lead on standardization and interoperability for Digital Europe. Professor Pamela Hussey from Health Informatics in Dublin City University, my home institute as well, and Spranta then from Azro, who's the head of project management offices there. And this diverse group and this diverse skill set allows us to cover off multiple vertical sectors, different technology areas, and lots lots of experience in terms of standardization, and they will help us to guide us in terms of our approach to the open calls, to keep our fingers on the pulse of emerging technologies areas that need to be addressed. And as Ioannis has already outlined, like, you know, so there's certain I suppose clear and present needs required for standardization support, and we mentioned sort of like, you know, cement for sustainability and hydrogen, but also in terms of data spaces and data space technology, the green economy, circular economy, etc., all of which needs to be supported in terms of valorization of research outputs. So the roles of the EAG, then we'll just skip through these quite quickly. I think a lot of this is sort of covered in terms of what we expect in terms of our experts as well. But just get through. We're conscious that we need to keep revisiting what the open call context is going to be about, so that we're actively asking our expert advisory group then to keep us in the loop and keep us supported, like in terms of new topic areas that they see, like, you know. So we try to expand our network as wide as possible, but we are through HSbooster and our other standards initiatives, we are networks of networks, and we're trying to spread that network as wide as possible so that we cover as many key topic areas required, and encouraging the expert applications then, because we have this panel of experts that we need to support the services we're going to supply to the Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe projects. And you may not even be aware that you're an expert, but by virtue of even being appointed by your national body to serve on a mirror committee, to serve on a European committee or a global committee, you are an expert. You know, you've been recognized by a national body. And also, if you're working within the standardization arena, you are an expert. We want to encourage as many of you as possible to share that expertise with the European project people, the Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe project people, to help them to continue along their road for valorization of their RTDI outputs through a standardization mechanism. The EAG are ambassadors for the HSbooster internationally, and will help us to get the word out there, and also not just encourage from an output perspective that they try and to, I suppose, advertise that this excellent facility is now available, but also internally, like to support with the engagement processes like this, where we have EAG members on this call and available to help in the chat to support some of the questions that may be asked. So in terms of prioritizing the open call topics, basically we just want to keep abreast of what technology areas that are priority areas for the digital single market, coming out of the European Commission, coming out of standardization requests, etc., and to make sure that we support the RTDI projects that are active in that space. Encouraging the EP expert applications from your own network, and as I said, this is a case of a network of networks, and by this close collaboration, because we were very open in terms of the way we collaborate on standardization, is that we try and bring as many partners together as possible, and that means that we link in with multiple European projects and multiple support mechanisms. We have a very close relationship, obviously, with Stand ICT and with Elite S and various other of support actions that exist. Ambassadors for HS boosters, that's just the in case of evangelizing the fact that the European Commission through the HS Booster platforms is supporting the valorization of RTDI outputs and supporting engagement activities again. So then sort of activating your own network and creating this network and network effects to get the message out there and to attract in the highest caliber of experts to join the panel of experts for HSbooster.eu. So the call for experts then just covers general areas that you would already be available, you'll already be aware of. So if you are an editor of a document, you know, if you contribute on a mirror committee, if you commented on standard documents, if you chair a working group, if you're a convener, chair a standards committee, if you're a convener of a working group, if you provided secretariat services, you know, at TC level, SC level, etc., then you are an expert, and you have this expertise that can be given back in an advisory role to the Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe projects. And if you're a head of delegation, if you were a delegate at a standards meeting, etc. And there's lots of you on these projects, and you've worked on projects which had standardization remit. There's been a certain standardization focus, and all of that can be shared back to the community and to greater enhance and help to generate and support the next generation of standards experts from a European perspective. So we need you. We need people like all of you on this call to get engaged, to answer the open call for standardization experts, to join our pool of experts, and to click on that link, www.HSbooster.eu/EPE for external panel of experts, and to register your expertise, the fact that you have this capacity to contribute to these funded projects. And there are a wide range of benefits that are available, and this is not just on one side. Like, so there's benefits that to the European standards organizations, the national standards bodies, and the standards development organizations to engage in this process. Like, allows you to get, I suppose, closer to the ground on what's happening at the RTDI level, from an innovation perspective, from a technological development perspective, through these funded projects. And it allows you to interact with those projects. You can provide feedback then in terms of the direction in which the projects are going. It allows you to participate at events where these projects are involved, but also allows you to create new content and contribute to the development of the direction of the projects. And that can be twofold, like, in terms of the SDO contributing to the project, but also participation and liaison aspect from the project back to the standards development organization. So facilitate project contributions, and this may generate new standards. We're always looking for new work item proposals. We're continuously doing landscape reports. We're continuously looking at where there may be gaps, how we're best serving the AI Act, the Data Governance Act, the Data Act, etc., and any new instruments that are coming out of the European Parliament, standardization requests, etc. So this is a way of actually trying to keep tabs on a lot of that activity and see is it been backed up by European project investment and funding. Direct engagement with the projects, obviously, and keeping a finger on the pulse of emerging technology. These are all the benefits to the SDOs, ESOs, and national standards bodies. Also, in terms of outreach, it allows you to engage with the HS Booster project and piggyback on the HS Booster in terms of your outreach and how the SDOs may reach a much wider audience. And as I said, a lot of these actions that are funded by the European Commission are closely linked together with other support actions, which means we get this, as I said, network effect. And to support SDOs to contribute to meeting EU strategic objectives, because at the end of the day, we have a standardization strategy coming out of the EU, and we want to make sure that this is well aligned with the standards development organizations, particularly the ESOs, so the SENSA, the ETSIs, and then how they contribute to the global standards development organizations like ISO, ITU, and IEC. So here's just a snapshot from one of the reports from the ESI that there are lots of ways in which standards can enhance trade, and this trade means just interoperability. Standards and interoperability are a byword, and allows you to globalize your output, your RTD output, to make sure that your innovation is accepted on a global scale. And as a byproduct for engaging through standardization, then this allows for scaling, global scaling of products. And this is one of the key reasons why European projects should engage in standardization process. So if you're ready to make a difference, then you can get started, and you just click on that link, www.HSbooster.eu EPE register. And we can answer any questions you have in the panel session or through the Q&A in the chat or in the chat itself. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Ray. So thanks very much for that excellent overview. What we'll do now is we'll field some questions that have come in over the chat and over the Q&A. So one question I think probably to Ray and Signe is so there's obviously clearly there's a lot of work that's been going on, that has gone on before, both with the Standard Development Organization, European Standardization Organizations, and We've also seen in the chat a number of projects which have been funded to focus on standardization in different areas. So I think a general question is, how are we going to ensure engagement with the various standardization communities or organizations to ensure that their objectives and needs are reflected?
Thank you very much. I can just start, if I may. First of all, we of course would very much like to cooperate with all the standardization organizations that we can. We have already started creating a cooperation with CEN-CENELEC. We have a meeting with ETSI today. ISO and IEC are next on the list. And after that, of course, we're also going to reach out for IEEE and many others, because the closer we can cooperate, the better. Because we truly believe that this is, if we stand together in this, then we are definitely going to be stronger in the end, all of us. This is a win-win situation for everybody, I think. In regard to using what is already existing, as myself being from Danish standards, I'm of course, we are a member of CEN-CENELEC, ETSI, ISO and IEC. So we know a lot about what's going on here. But I strongly encourage that if you are, for example, outside of the formal system and we might not have knowledge of what is going on there, please contact us, because we are very willing to cooperate with anybody with knowledge in this field. So no matter what you think you can contribute, just contact us and we would be happy to set up a meeting with you. One of the main things I think we can cooperate on is, for example, the expert panel mentioned by Ray. We are looking very much into finding some persons who have knowledge both on standardization and then one of the topics we mentioned regarding the open calls. Because of course, as you can see, we are a small consortium, so we cannot have knowledge on everything, and that's why we really need this key information and key expertise from these experts. So if you believe you fit this role, please go in and apply. I'm not sure, I don't remember if we mentioned it, I'll just mention it again, that if you apply to become an expert and you are selected to help us give advice for a project, then you'll have a small amount of money received for this. So you'll actually be a paid expert. So we do not expect you to provide this service for free. So you will actually have a little bit of money for your service also. So again, please register if you believe you fit this role. And then, of course, also we would like to cooperate with the working groups and the TCs, and we are trying to, again, link with those. I am pretty confident that I can say that we will pop up at TC meetings here and there whenever there's a relevant topic, and give a little bit of speech and have some dialogue with you there also. So you might also see us there. So over to Ray, if you have any comments.
Just to echo mostly what Signe has said, but yes, we have the thing about this group. We are a small consortium, again, for this particular project is a pilot project, but we have an extensive network. So even within the group that we have that are actively contributing to this particular project from the partner perspective, we have extensive links in terms of standardization, and this is what we bring to bear on these type of projects. And this is key because, like Signe is involved, like I said, at national level, at the European level, at international level as well in terms of standardization. And I also work with ETSI and CEN-CENELEC, with ITU, with United Nations, with European Commission on standardization at national, European, and global level as well. And I'm bringing those networks together in terms of when we create our outreach and our dissemination of what we're trying to achieve. We're disseminating far outside of our core group. Where, as I said, it's this network effect. Like so we're using EliteS, we're using Standardize AT, we're using ADRA-E, we're using Big Data Value Association, we're using all of these other partners that we're linked in with all the time. And they're constantly helping us to get the message out and attracting in experts. And the key here is to bring in as many experts as possible. We are evangelizing, the added value that comes with standardization in terms of how standardization can impact on your products and on your research, and we're effectively selling that to the European projects, but we also are providing services. So we're not just saying this is how you can benefit. We're saying here's how we can help you. you to engage in this on this road and support you in your journey, so that you can become a global player. You can maximize your interoperability of products and services and tools, etc.
Thanks, Ray. And I think, there's a couple of questions about EC-funded activities which are working on standardization or have done landscaping activities or have provided support to projects in their field to contribute to standardization. And we're extremely interested in collaborating with those projects. For the projects in question, I think it's a logical sustainability opportunity for them to have their results highlighted or showcased or linked to by the booster, which would stay in the long term. And clearly for us, having this expertise in particular, specific information on what requirements are around in, for example, we saw before nanotechnology, is something that is vital for us to tweak and ensure that the open calls that we put out for the projects reflect the reality and the urgencies in the very broad spectrum of topics which we aim to cover. I'd like to I've put together a couple of questions based on training, Ivana. So there's a couple of nice questions in terms of languages. So, not just restricting training materials to English, but also looking at broadening their impact and scope in other languages. And also in terms of training trainers. So, how can the booster impact on ensuring that trainers like yourself in standardization are also impacted on?
Thank you for the question. I'm not so sure, and educational theory is very clear that there is no one solution for all. So it is very important to have target group. So what are you teaching or what are you training and for whom? And right now we are in some place where there is no much theory about how to train researchers, how to train very knowledgeable people in some areas. So educational theory had some recommendation and we use it in designing our training methodology. And I think that our training methodology would be very, very interesting for all who are dealing with trainings and so on. But providing training in other contexts and in other situations had some specific rules. And I think that one outcome of our project might be some sort of instructions, and we surely have our methodology publicly available after the project. But I have no solution fit for all, and training trainers would be a great idea if there is interest in developing trainings for trainers. That I will be happy to do that.
Wonderful, thank you very much, Ivana.
You can just pick up on that, Nick, just briefly, yeah. Just that the HS Booster is actually a pilot project, so we're hoping to cover as much as humanly possible, obviously within the scope of the funding that's been made available to us. But we're hoping that this will also lead into future and further supports mechanisms that built on what we achieve hopefully in HS Booster. And part of that we would hope, and Ivana spoke to this already, in terms of hoping that we have a training facility which will train the trainers, so that we create a sustainability link, out of the project as well, that will feed on for future generations as well.
I'm in.
So I think that's a very important point, Ray. From our experience of delivering the Common Dissemination Booster, which was prior to the Horizon Results Booster, with a pilot, the Commission are extremely interested in finding from the community and from our experience what has worked and what hasn't worked and what things can be improved. And this is really our role as a funded activity. And in fact, there's a comment from Barry Cox, a question in the Q&A there, in terms of requesting each project in Horizon Europe provide a report on standardization. And, you know, clearly this is quite a big thing to be introduced by the Commission, but the booster does provide, with its consultancy services, an opportunity for projects to get free guidance and to really improve the way that they can contribute and achieve objectives which they may have written in their contract with the Commission, or may have emerged as the project has gone on. So, you know, our objective is to also provide, you know, this type of input for the projects that they should report on in their reporting, in their deliverables, or their periodic reporting that they deliver to the European Commission. So I think we have gone 4 minutes over. I'd just like to quickly go around our panelists to ask them if they have any final comments or final word that they would like to share. You've got, shall we say, 20 seconds each to give a quick snippet. Ray, I can see you thinking, but you're the fastest off the mark, I think. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so look, I think what we've learned over the last 5 or 6 years is that standardization has gone from being more of a peripheral activity in relation to RTDI activities to now become a core activity, RTDI activities. We've seen a major shift in the last 5 6 years in the European Commission's funding of standardization initiatives, and now we have multiple instruments that are available, including HSbooster, to help support standardization right across the board, and this one specifically targeted at Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe funded projects. So with this evolution is great, but it's only a start. We need to standardization allows for greater globalization, greater interoperability, of products, services, instruments, tools, components, etc., frameworks. So it is going to become more and more important from a digital single market perspective. In other words, higher on the agenda of the European Commission. So we need to grow the next generation of experts. So we need as many people who are involved in standardization to engage with HSbooster and such projects to give us this pool of expertise that is required to raise all ships. In other words, to valorize the outputs for the RTDI community, and also to support the national initiatives, European initiatives, and global initiatives that are going on in this space. You're on mute, Nick.
Nicholas, you mute.
I'm muted, sorry, apologies. Thanks, Ray. Very, very, very good. Ivana, can you give me 30 seconds?
20 seconds, okay. Donald Purcell claimed that 80% of every goods and services in global supply chains are related with standards, are produced using by standard or are offered on the market in relation to some standards. And it is such a pity to not know anything about that game. So standardization is very important. It's not academic discipline overly accepted. It is very practical discipline and very influential. So why do not learn how to play the game?
Thank you, Ivana. Perfect. Very nice. If I can hand over to you, Jose, to Lucio, sorry.
Well, just to underline my previous speech, we need standards. We need new people to make standards grow. This is one of the highest values of Europe, and the industry, our industry need that support.
Thank you, Lucio. And finally to you, Signe.
Thank you very much. Well, we've been working with research and innovation for quite some time in Danish standards. So I've also been a partner in many Horizon projects, but we are also often contacted by projects where the project officer from the Commission has said, you need to do something about standardization. And it's been very difficult for them to find out, okay, what exactly is it that we need to do? Well, that means I'm very happy that we are finally developing this tool, because that means you need to look no further. You just need to look at the HSbooster website, and then you'll hopefully in some months know exactly what to do regarding standardization in your project. So I think this is a really good opportunity for the world of standardization and the world of research and innovation, both in universities, but also in businesses and organizations, to stand together. Because what we really want to do is make a stronger Europe with strong businesses that are fit for the future.
Perfect. I think that's a very nice way to end today's webinar. I'd like to thank all of our speakers, and I'd also like to thank my colleagues Francesco, Julie, and Maria for their support in setting up and managing the webinar behind the scenes. Thank you all for joining us, and please do visit our website, get there the information regarding the open calls, which are coming out towards the end of June, on the 21st of June. And if you're an expert working in standardization, please sign up, join our pool of experts, and please get engaged. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Be
Bye.
safe. Bye-bye.